XRP is the only ever cryptocurrency, besides Ethereum, that managed to get to #2 position out of all cryptocurrencies. Today, it stands at 3rd place if we exclude stablecoins. Many people believe that it will one day not only regain 2nd position, but also overthrow #1 cryptocurrency, which is Bitcoin. In order to understand why that is the case, you must first understand what it actually is, how it works, why was it created, where is it being used, and what makes it different from Bitcoin. And today is your lucky day, because I prepared 6 explanation locks that will help you understand everything, even if you are a complete beginner. Only thing you need to do is to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Now let's dive in and see what XRP actually is. When learning about XRP, the first thing to establish is a simple definition. XRP is a digital asset. That means it exists online and can be owned and transferred from one person to another, much like money. The simplest way to understand it is to compare it to cash in digital form. You cannot hold XRP in your hand like a paper dollar bill, but it can still be owned, received, and sent to someone else. So if someone asks what XRP actually is, the most direct answer is this. XRP is a form of digital value that exists on the internet. A useful comparison is the money shown in a banking app. When you open a bank account on your phone, you do not see physical cash. You see numbers on a screen that represent value. XRP is similar in that sense because it is also digital. The difference is that it was created specifically for a crypto network rather than a bank account. That is why it is described as a cryptocurrency or digital asset. It is value that exists in digital form. Another useful comparison is email. Before the internet, sending a letter required paper, an envelope, and a postal service. Today, a message can be sent digitally through email. XRP relates to the same basic idea, but with value instead of information. Rather than mailing physical money or relying on older payment methods, value can move in digital form. That does not mean XRP is simply a message. It means XRP is the thing of value being transferred. Email moves information, while XRP is designed to move value. That distinction matters. Some beginners hear the word asset and assume it is more technical than it is. In simple terms, an asset is anything that has value. A house can be an asset. Gold can be an asset. Money can be an asset. XRP is called a digital asset because it is something valuable that exists digitally. That is all the term means. It refers to a digital thing of value. Another important point is that XRP is not a company share. Owning XRP does not mean owning part of a business in the way a stock does. It is also not the same as a product coupon or reward point. It is its own standalone digital asset. One way to picture it is to imagine an arcade, where tokens are used within that system as a unit of value. XRP is similar in the sense that it is the value unit created for its own crypto environment. So when people buy, hold, or send XRP, they are dealing with the native asset of that system. And this will become much clearer in next topic. But for now, the main point is not where XRP runs or how it works in technical detail. That will come clear in later topics. The essential idea is simple. XRP is digital value. It is a cryptocurrency. It is something people can own and transfer online. If the broader terminology starts to sound confusing, return to that basic definition. XRP is like cash in digital form for the internet. It cannot be touched physically, but it can still be owned, sent, and received as something of value. That is what XRP is. Now that XRP has been defined, the next step is to separate it from 2 other terms that are often confused with it: the XRP Ledger and Ripple. Many beginners hear these 3 names used together and assume they mean the same thing, but they do not. Once they are mixed together, the rest of the subject becomes harder to follow. The distinction is straightforward. XRP is the asset. The XRP Ledger is the network where that asset moves. Ripple is a company that builds products and services connected to that ecosystem. One useful comparison is email. When an email is sent, the message is the thing being delivered. The internet is the system that carries it. A company such as Gmail is a business that builds tools people use on top of that system. In that comparison, XRP is like the message being sent. The XRP Ledger is like the internet that carries it, and Ripple is like a company building services around that system. They are related, but they are not the same thing. Another useful comparison is roads, cars, and a car company. The road is the path that allows movement. The car is the thing moving on that road. The company is the business making products related to transportation. In that example, the XRP Ledger is the road, XRP is the car, and Ripple is the company. No one would treat the road and the car as the same thing, and no one would confuse the car company with the road. But because they all belong to the same general subject, people often blend them together. That is what happens with XRP. The distinction becomes clearer when each part is defined on its own. XRP is the unit of value. When people buy XRP, hold XRP, or send XRP, that is what they are referring to. The XRP Ledger is the blockchain network where XRP exists and moves. A blockchain is a shared digital system that records transfers and keeps track of ownership. If XRP is the thing of value, the XRP Ledger is the system that records it. Ripple is different from both. It is not the coin, and it is not the blockchain itself. Ripple is a private company. It has worked on payment-related technology and has been closely connected to XRP for many years, which is why many beginners assume Ripple and XRP are identical. They are not. A company can be involved with an asset without being the asset itself. Apple provides a simple comparison. Apple builds devices that use the internet, but Apple is not the internet. In the same way, Ripple has built around this ecosystem, but it is not XRP and it is not the XRP Ledger. This distinction removes much of the confusion. When someone says Ripple did something, that does not automatically mean XRP itself changed. When someone talks about the price of XRP, they are referring to the asset, not the company. When someone explains how transfers happen on-chain, they are referring to the XRP Ledger, which is the network. The clearest version is this. XRP is the asset, the XRP Ledger is the network, and Ripple is the company. Once that separation is clear, the rest of the XRP topics become much easier to understand. And speaking about next topics, our next step is to look at what XRP does, because understanding what something is not the same as understanding its function. A simple way to think about XRP is to compare it to fuel in a machine. You can look at a car and understand that it exists, but that still does not explain the role of the fuel inside it. XRP serves a function within its own system. Its first role is helping transactions move across the network. When value is transferred, XRP can be the asset sent from one side to the other. Its second role is helping protect the network from spam. In this context, spam means fake or unnecessary activity that could clog the system. XRP helps limit that by making each action on the network cost a very small amount, so flooding the system is no longer free. Its third role is acting as a bridge between different forms of value. A bridge asset works much like a physical bridge. If there is no direct road across a river, a bridge allows movement from one side to the other. In the same way, XRP can sit between two different assets and help value move more easily between them. That is one reason it is often described as a bridge asset. All of this takes place on the XRP Ledger, which is the network XRP runs on, as we already explained. Unlike Bitcoin, this system does not use mining. Mining is the process in which specialized computers compete to confirm transactions, and it is one of Bitcoin's defining features. XRP works differently. The XRP Ledger uses a consensus process instead, meaning the network reaches agreement on transactions without mining. For a beginner, a useful way to picture consensus is as a group of scorekeepers checking the same result, agreeing on the correct record, and only then writing it down. Because of that design, the XRP Ledger can settle transactions in seconds and at very low cost. Official XRPL materials describe the ledger as a public blockchain capable of settling thousands of transactions in seconds for fractions of a penny, and Ripple describes payment settlement in roughly 3 to 5 seconds. XRPL documentation also explains that the network includes cross-currency payments and a built-in decentralized exchange, which makes the idea of XRP serving as a bridge easier to understand. In the simplest terms, XRP has three main functions within its system. It helps move value, it helps protect the network from spam, and it can connect one asset to another by acting as a bridge. That is what XRP does. The next question we are going to answer is why XRP was created. Because once the reason behind it is clear, the broader project becomes easier to understand. The short answer is that XRP was created to make the movement of value faster, cheaper, and more efficient than older systems and earlier crypto designs. That was the central goal. It was not created simply to exist as another coin in the market. It was created to address a problem. Official XRPL history explains that the original architects were inspired by Bitcoin, but wanted to improve on its limitations by creating something more sustainable and more specifically designed for payments. A simple way to understand this is through comparison. Imagine sending a package and having two delivery options. One is slow, expensive, and full of delays. The other is faster, cheaper, and designed for quick delivery from the beginning. That captures the basic idea behind why XRP was created. Its creators looked at the way value is moving and saw a process that could be made smoother. In the traditional financial system, moving money across borders can be slow, costly, and dependent on multiple intermediaries. In early crypto days, Bitcoin introduced an important breakthrough, but it was not primarily designed for fast, low-cost payments at large scale. The people behind XRP wanted something more specialized. A useful way for beginners to think about it is this. Bitcoin helped prove that digital money could exist without a central authority. XRP emerged from the next question, whether digital value could be moved in a way that was more practical for payments. XRPL's own material states that XRP was created in 2012 specifically for payments and describes it as faster, cheaper, and more energy efficient than older digital asset designs. Another comparison is once again roads. One road may be strong, established, and historically important, but crowded and slower for everyday transport. Engineers may then build another road with the specific goal of making travel smoother and more efficient for a certain kind of movement. That does not mean the first road failed. It means the second one was built for a different purpose. That is a useful way to understand XRP's creation. It was designed with payment efficiency in mind from the beginning. There was another reason as well. The people behind the XRP Ledger wanted to avoid mining. XRPL history states that they saw waste of energy in mining and wanted to create a more sustainable system for sending value. Mining is the process some blockchains use in which powerful computers compete to validate transactions. XRP creators chose a different model, one intended to move value without relying on that approach. Taken together, the explanation is pretty straightforward. The world already had slow and expensive systems for moving value, and early crypto was not fully optimized for that specific task. XRP was created as a digital asset designed for payments, with the aim of moving value quickly, at low cost, and with greater efficiency. That is the reason behind XRP's creation. It was built as a more practical tool for transferring value in a world where both traditional finance and early crypto still had clear limitations. The next step is to examine what makes XRP different from Bitcoin, because this is where many people begin to see that cryptocurrencies were not all built for the same purpose. A useful way to understand the difference is to compare a gold bar with a payment rail. A gold bar is mainly something people hold because they believe it stores value well over time. A payment rail is built to move value from one place to another quickly and efficiently. That comparison captures much of the difference. Bitcoin was introduced as a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, and its design is built around proof of work. That means miners use computing power and energy to secure the network and add new blocks. The Bitcoin white paper and Bitcoin.org both describe proof of work as a core part of how Bitcoin prevents fraud and confirms transactions. XRP works differently. Official XRPL material states that XRP was created in 2012 specifically for payments, settles in about 3 to 5 seconds, and runs on the XRP Ledger without mining. One major difference is the system behind each network. Bitcoin uses mining. XRP does not. That does not make one inherently better or worse than the other. It means they were built with different priorities. Another difference is speed. If sending value is compared to sending a package, Bitcoin is more like a highly secure armored truck that moves carefully and is designed to be extremely difficult to attack. XRP is more like an express delivery system designed from the beginning for speed. XRP settles in roughly 3 to 5 seconds, while Bitcoin transactions are confirmed by being included in blocks that mine roughly every 10 minutes and are secured through proof of work. Cost is another point of difference. The current minimum transaction cost for a standard XRP Ledger transaction is 0.00001 XRP, and it consistently presents the network as a low-cost system. Bitcoin also aims to keep processing fees relatively low compared with some traditional systems, but its fee model depends on network conditions and available block space. It was not originally optimized in the same way XRP was for very cheap, fast settlement. There is also a difference in purpose. Many beginners now understand Bitcoin primarily as digital gold, meaning an asset people buy mainly to hold because of its scarcity. XRP, by contrast, is described by XRPL as being built specifically for payments and as a native asset that can help bridge currencies and protect the ledger from spam. In the simplest terms, both Bitcoin and XRP are digital assets, but they were shaped for different strengths. Bitcoin became best known for scarcity, security, and long-term value storage. XRP became known for speed, low cost, the absence of mining, and payment efficiency. Bitcoin is closer to a digital vault. XRP is closer to a digital highway. And all of this sounds great, but it doesn't matter much without answering our next question. And next question is where XRP is actually used, because this is the point where theory becomes practical application. The simplest way to understand XRP's use cases is to see it as a tool that is most useful when value needs to move quickly from one place to another. It is not primarily known for gaming, social media, or NFTs. Its clearest real-world role remains tied to payments, liquidity, and the more efficient movement of value between different assets. Ripple describes XRP as the native cryptocurrency of the XRP Ledger, and says it was designed as a bridge asset for fast, low-cost, cross-border transactions. Ripple also explains that its cross-border payment flow can use either stablecoins or XRP to move value across blockchain rails in seconds. The first major use case is cross-border transfers. Cross-border simply means sending money from one country to another. In traditional finance, that often involves multiple banks, added fees, and delays. Ripple explains that blockchain-based cross-border payments can work by converting fiat money into a digital asset, such as a stablecoin, or into a cryptocurrency, such as XRP, moving it across the blockchain in seconds, and then converting it back on the receiving side. A useful comparison is an airport connection. Instead of trying to find a direct route between every possible pair of cities, it can be more efficient to use one fast hub in the middle. That is the basic idea behind XRP as a bridge asset. The second major use case is liquidity. Liquidity might sound technical to a beginner, but the idea is simple. It refers to how easily value can move without getting stuck. Ripple says its payment system supports use cases including remittances, payroll, liquidity management, and treasury flows. And XRP is part of that broader value movement story because it can be used as the bridge asset in those transfers. A simple way to picture liquidity is water moving through plumbing. If the water cannot move smoothly through the pipes, the system becomes inefficient. The same principle applies to money and assets. The third use case is within the XRP Ledger itself. XRPL describes the ledger as a decentralized public blockchain with low transaction costs and high performance. Its documentation also supports cross-currency payments and includes a built-in decentralized exchange, which means XRP exists within a system designed to move and exchange value rather than simply remain a passive asset. Ripple also describes XRP as facilitating transactions on the network, protecting the ledger from spam, and bridging currencies in the XRP Ledger's native decentralized exchange. The fourth use case is trading. As of April 2026, XRP remains one of the largest and most actively traded crypto assets. XRP ranks today number 3 by market capitalization, excluding stablecoins. That does not by itself prove payment adoption, but it does show that XRP remains highly active in crypto markets as a liquid asset that people can buy, sell, and transfer. Taken together, XRP is used where the fast movement of value matters most. It is used as a bridge asset in some cross-border payment flows. It plays a role in liquidity and treasury-style value movement. It exists within a blockchain built for cross-currency transfers and exchange, and it remains a highly traded crypto asset in live markets. And with that, you now understand what XRP is, how it works, why it was created, where it is used, and what makes it different from Bitcoin. For a beginner, that provides a much stronger foundation than the limited picture often shaped by headlines, hype, or social media debates. To continue building that understanding, you can watch one of the 2 videos that popped on your screen now. You can also subscribe, leave a like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.